Hello, figments of my imagination. April showers seem to have brought us dual Ashes streams this year, one incredibly disappointing and the other simply incredible. Or maybe I'm just biased whenever mages are involved. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the disappointment. The community Q&A stream. Honestly, my biggest takeaway is that Steven really missed his calling as a politician. The linguistic acrobatics on display were simply breathtaking. I mean, if you've seen any of the other streams, you're probably well acquainted with Steven's ability to say a lot of words that contain little actual information, but on this stream he cranked that up to 11. And let's not forget the community members asking the questions. For the most part, they each stayed within their niche. Ash's Pathfinder and TGF mainly focused on lore, while Richie tried to mine more Alpha 2 info. And that's fine, everyone has their own goals. I don't have any problem with that. But what does annoy me is wasting this opportunity by asking questions that have been answered in previous streams, especially recent ones. Still, for the most part they all did a good job, their questions were fine. It's just impossible to nail Steven down, considering he holds all the power in the interview. Moving on to the normal stream, this month was the Mage Preview, and damn was it a good one. Right away we were shown a full 16 skills in the hotbar, the most we've seen as far as I know. Steven demoed 11 of the skills, and the other 5 each had their tooltips visible for a split second at some point during the stream. The main focus here was clearly to demonstrate how the status energies play together. In this case we have Chilled, which slows for each stack and applies Frozen at 5 stacks, preventing movement entirely. On the lightning side we have Electrified, which at 10 stacks applies Shocked, causing each hit to consume an electrified stack for extra damage. The tooltip for Electrified also says Reduced Magical Mitigation, so there may also be a resistance cut component. As for Synergy, hitting a frozen target with electric damage shatters them, doing a large chunk of damage and applying another effect, the tooltip for which we never saw. As for the abilities themselves, for utility we have Blink, a medium distance instant teleport, Shell, a temporary health shield, and Slumber, a 15-second AoE CC that breaks on damage. For Frost, we had Frostbolt, a single target ice spell that applies 2 chilled stacks, Blizzard, a channeled spell that deals damage and applies stacks of chilled periodically. You can also move while channeling it. And finally, Cone of Cold, a cone-shaped AoE that damages, chills, and leaves behind proximity mines that deal additional damage and apply another chilled stack. Moving to Lightning, we have Lightning Strike, a single target spell that applies 2 stacks of Electrified, Chain Lightning, a targeted spell that chains to all nearby enemies, adding 3 stacks of Electrified to each target, and Ball Lightning, a slow-moving projectile that deals damage in ticks and applies Electrified. The casting visuals are also very reminiscent of a certain popular anime. Wrapping up the spells we actually saw, we had Arcane Volley, a single-target multi-hit spell that applies no status, but is obviously made to combo against shocked opponents, and Elemental Empowerment, a permanent buff that causes your weapon attacks to deal more damage and apply the status effect of the last spell type you cast. As for the non-demoed tooltips, we have Fireball, a single-target instant spell with 3 charges that damage and apply 1 stack of burning, Magma Field, a targeted AoE that deals constant tick damage and applies stacks of burning, Meteor, a high-damage skill shot that sends enemies flying on impact and continues doing damage while rolling, Fissure, a linear AoE that deals earth damage, applies earth in stacks, and knocks up enemies. And finally, Arcane Empowerment, which temporarily increases cast time while active. I assume it's just worded poorly and is supposed to actually decrease cast time like a typical DPS cooldown, as increasing the already pretty long cast time seems miserable and counterproductive. Gameplay-wise, the combos look smooth and rewarding. The core loop of applying different statuses to get the most damage seems like a refreshing twist on something like WoW's proc-based system. However, I do worry about how important that might be to the spec as a whole, as I could see it getting repetitive after a couple of hours. But again, that's a thing for Alpha 2 to sort out. Another minor but interesting takeaway was the role different weapon types could play in combination with elemental empowerment. In the demo, a wand was used to quickly apply status stacks to a single target, while a broadsword was used to cleave grouped up enemies, applying or consuming stacks from each of them. This little interaction also served as confirmation of weapon swapping in combat, something hinted at a few streams ago. The Q&A only really had 2 interesting questions. The first was if single-type mages would be viable, such as going only fire or only frost. Steven confirmed that while you would lose out on some horizontal gameplay elements, such as combos with teammates, your overall DPS shouldn't be harmed. Second, someone asked if crafters could spec to drop less materials on death, and Steven took this time to clarify that function would exist, but it would be a function of different bag types, not skill points. And that's it. I'll admit I was really hyped for this preview, and I'm glad it delivered. I swear whenever I start to wonder about my future with Ashes, I see something I'd kill to play, and I'm way back in. New Zelda drops in 2 weeks, then Diablo 2 weeks later. Hopefully the stream for May isn't on June 2nd, because I am going to be murdering demons all weekend. Anyways, interact however below, and I'll see you all eventually.